Hey everyone, so I thought that today would be a good day to talk about maybe how to go about writing an analysis paragraph. Now, I do have it pulled up on the screen, my example, and you will have access to this in the Google Classroom, but I also wanted to show you what my process was what I think about when I'm writing an analysis paragraph. Now, first off, what I want to say is there's always a huge misconception about essays or analysis paragraphs. Everybody always assumes that there's somehow like this perfect way to do it or there's like a formula to do it, but there really isn't. Take for example, you could go on like YouTube or you could go on the internet, and there are a ton of analysis essays, analysis articles everywhere in the world, and not all of them have to follow a very specific format. As long as you're hitting some of the big things like explaining a theme, giving evidence, all that kind of stuff, you're doing one of the major parts of analysis. You're analyzing things and showing your critical thinking. So let's go ahead and take a look at our analysis paragraph. Over on the screen over here, I've got a blank analysis paragraph. There's nothing there so far, and that's how we're going to start. But even before we get to this point, always remember that you should have your notes that you can look back at for all of your information. So all of the thinking, all of like the hard thinking stuff should be done by the time you get to the writing process. And as you're going to see, a lot of what I wrote up here in my worksheet that includes the on the lines, between the lines, and beyond the lines, a lot of that I can actually use as just like a copy and paste into my paragraph. And that's the reason why doing your pre-writing is so important. So what is the first thing we need in an analysis paragraph, or in any sort of writing for that matter? Well, first thing we're going to need is a hook or introduction. And honestly, I don't really know one for my story, Finding Nemo, yet, so I'm just going to skip that for now, actually. And yes, that's an okay thing to do in your writing. You can skip parts. So next thing that we're going to need to do is a theme statement and introduce the story. So a theme statement and introducing the story. So one of the really good places you're going to look for a theme statement is actually going to be this orange section right here, or what I colored as the orange section. This falls under the beyond the line section, and specifically you might want to look at this first question and your answer to the first question. So I said, I think that Disney uses Nemo as an example of how no matter what your abilities are in life, you can always show courage, strength, and help out people you care about. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually just going to go ahead and copy and paste that down here. Boom. So I got that now. That's like one of my theme statements, or the draft of my theme statement that I might want to use. What do I do with this? Okay, well, I can do a little bit of editing with this. I don't want to do a ton of editing yet because we aren't to that phase. First thing I notice is I have the words I think right here. We never need to write this in an essay or in any sort of formal writing. Everyone knows that you think. You are thinking all the time. You are thinking when you're sleeping, as a matter of fact. So we do not need to know that you think something. So we could actually just erase that. So we can just say Disney uses Nemo as an example of how no matter what your abilities are in life, you can always show courage, strength, and help out people you care about. Okay, so that sounded pretty good so far. I think that's fine for my theme statement right now. Let's stick with that. So coming up after that, we need a summary of the story. And I just misspelled story right there. Where are we going to get that from? Well, none other than our on the line section right here. So on the lines, that is just the very basic summary of the story. So that, of course, is going to be what you want to use for your summary of the story. So let's copy and paste that down as well. Boom. So now that I copied and pasted that down, let's take a look and see what the flow is like for that. So you can always show courage, strength, and help out people you care about. I'm just going to change the wording on that really quick. It sounds a little funny to me. Help the people you care about. And that just flows a little bit nicer. Again, notice that I am not spending a ton of time on editing. I'm just kind of changing the small things here and there whenever I see things that sound a little bit weird. Also notice that I'm reading everything out loud. I'm not just doing that for the video, I'm also doing that for myself to better understand, well, how does my writing sound right now? So Nemo gets taken from home, so his dad, Marlin, travels the seas with a fish with short-term memory loss. Okay, that word with and with really close to each other, that kind of threw me off a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I just want to get my ideas down on the page first. Something else I'm noticing is I talk about Nemo right here, and then I talk about Nemo down here, but I don't really have a transition that happens between these two sentences. So I think I'm going to add just the word when right here. So when Nemo gets taken from home, his dad, Marlin, travels the seas with the fish with short-term memory loss, Dory. They face many challenges, but also meet friends that help them on their journey. In the end, they save Nemo and are able to go back home together. Okay, I think that sounded fine to me. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next section. So you see here, I've got my theme statement going down into a summary of the story, making sure that that transition flows nicely. Okay, so what comes next? Because this summary is very short, and you want it to be short. You never want your summary to be more than 2 to 3 sentences, because as you bring up more facts about the story, your reader is going to understand more about the story. You do not want to go in detail about what the story is. So let's take a look back up at here. The next section we've got is this between the lines section. And in my between the lines section for this question, I talked about Nemo. So I was describing Nemo, and I think I'm just going to also copy and paste this down for now. I don't know how helpful it's going to be, but I just want to at least get my ideas down there. So I'm going to call this section explaining the character or event. Because remember, some of your stories don't have a ton of characters, so you will have to use more of an event. But this story, Finding Nemo, has tons of characters, and they are very important characters. So we're just going to use them. So Nemo is one of the main characters. He is Marlin's son and is born with a fin that is slightly weaker than his other fin. He is happy and excited about starting school, but his dad is very protective. Nemo, however, shows a lot of bravery in a few scenes when he breaks the filter in the dentist's office so they can all escape. Let me just add such as when he breaks the filter. So Nemo is one of the main characters. I don't know if I really need that sentence because it doesn't really make sense with the flow. So in the end, they save Nemo and are able to go back home together. Nemo is one of the main characters. Well, by this point, we know that Nemo is the main character. We talk about Nemo in our theme, as a matter of fact, so I don't really think we need that anymore. I'm just going to erase that. He is Marlin's son and is born with... Okay, well, now that doesn't make sense either, because now I'm talking about, who is he? That doesn't refer to anyone, because I took Nemo out of the first sentence, so I think we have to erase that too. Maybe what we can do is we can just say Nemo is born with a fin that is slightly weaker than his other fin. He's happy and excited about starting school, but his dad is very protective. Okay, I think that's flowing pretty okay now. Let's roll with that. So what happens after this? Well, I explained a little scene that happens. Shows a lot of bravery in a few scenes, such as when he breaks the filter in the dentist's office so they can all escape. Now, this right here, in a perfect world, you would always try to use textual evidence from whatever you are working with. However, I don't really have a quote that I can pull from Finding Nemo to symbolize this. So, this was really the best that I could do, is to describe the scene. For some of you who have graphic novels and for or children's books, this is probably also the best you can do as well, is describing what's happening in the scene versus having a direct quote from it. Once we have an actual novel or short story, it's a little bit easier to use a direct quote, but we don't always have direct quotes. So what I am going to say though is that I'm just going to put a little note here saying try to use a direct quote when possible. And then when you use a direct quote, you have to, of course, cite it properly, and we'll talk about that once we get to that point. So I've got that, but I don't really have a reason why he helps them all escape. It just like this statement just kind of says that he does help them escape. So next I want to explain why the character does what they do. So why do they do what they do? Well, conveniently enough, I do have an answer for that, because the next question is, why does this character do what they do? Well, I've got an answer for that. So Nemo breaks the filter because he wants to prove that he can help the team since he was the only one small enough to fit into the filter. Let's copy and paste that down. I just need to do a little formatting really quick to make sure that this all looks the same for now. So let's see how that reads. So Nemo, however, shows a lot of bravery in a few scenes, such as when he breaks the filter in the dentist's office so they can all escape. Nemo breaks the filter because he wants to prove that he can help the team since he was the only one small enough to fit into the filter. This, I mean, it can work, but it's not perfect. Maybe for now I can just throw that word in there. So Nemo chooses to break. Gotta fix that. To break the filter because he wants to prove that he can help the team since he was the only one small enough to fit into the filter. Okay, that seems kind of okay now. I, of course, can add more to explain why my character does what they do. Maybe I want to say something like, up until this point, Nemo was just a small injured fish that everybody had to take care of. And actually, I think it actually makes more sense to put that at the beginning. So I'm just going to move that really quick. So up until this point, Nemo was just a small injured fish that everybody had to take care of. Nemo chooses to break the filter because he wants to prove that he can help the team since he was the only one small enough to fit into the filter. Ooh, all right. That's looking pretty juicy now. Okay, so again, it's not perfect, but you know what? I just want to keep rolling with what I've got. I want to get more and more of my ideas down on the page because I can't make things beautiful, I can't make things pretty if I don't even have something on the page yet. So, after this, I kind of explained a little bit about Nemo, and then after that, I explained why Nemo makes the decisions that he does. Now I have to connect this back to the theme. So what was my theme again? So the theme was, no matter what your abilities are in life, you can always show courage, strength, and help the people you care about. Okay, so how am I going to tie all of this back to the theme? So a lot of this orange, a lot of this beyond the line stuff, that is going to be the stuff that I want to pull from. Maybe not so much this question because that might be a little bit hard to connect. Like, yeah, sure, I can maybe make that connection of how the song Firework can connect with Nemo, but it might not work super well. So I'm going to skip over this question really quick. This one, though, who do you think needs to read or hear the story? Let's take a look at what I wrote for this. So I think Finding Nemo is a good story for anybody, but specifically I think that people who need a boost of self-esteem and confidence should watch this movie. We can learn from Nemo's struggle and also when he sets an example of not letting his disabilities hold him back. His dad, Marlin, then learns this about Nemo as well. Huh. All right. I don't remember writing this because it was a while ago, but I kind of like what I wrote right here. I think I'm actually going to copy and paste this sentence down here and see what that gets me. So we can learn from Nemo's struggle and also learn from the times he sets an example of not letting his disabilities hold him back. His dad, Marlin, then learned this about Nemo as well. And, actually, while I'm thinking about this, I am reminded of another scene where, that scene towards the end of the movie where Nemo has to, or there's like that really big group of fish that are all caught in the net, and then Dory gets caught in that net as well. And so if Nemo and Marlin don't do something neat, Dory is going to be like taken up out of the water and be filleted into sushi or something. And so in that scene, Nemo has to like squirm into the net because he's the only one small enough to fit in there. And then he has to tell all the fish to swim down so that way they can save each other. Okay, so I think that could actually fit right here. So I think I want to add a little something about that right here. So his dad, Marlin, then learns this about Nemo as well. Letting Nemo take leadership in a stressful situation to save a mass of fish and Dory when they're all trapped in a net. Okay, so that's like another little small connection that I can tell the reader about. So we can learn from Nemo's struggle, yada, yada, yada. All right, what else can I do to connect back to the theme? Well, what did I write here? So this question, why is this story important? That's also a really good thing to explain in your connection back to the theme as well. So what do I say? The story is important because it's an example that those with disabilities aren't useless. They may have different needs, but we shouldn't be overprotective or stop them from living their lives just because they don't live their lives exactly like us. Everybody is different and has different needs, and that's okay. We should help people and give people what they need and what they ask for, not what we think they need. Okay, I must have been like, my analysis brain must have been like firing off like crazy when I wrote this worksheet, because I really like what I wrote there as well. Again, this is not like, I did not plan this out. I worked on this worksheet kind of in class with the rest of you. So I'm just trying to take some of my raw ideas and put them down into analysis paragraph format. So let's copy paste that right there. So the story is important because it's an example that those with disabilities aren't useless. They may have different needs, but okay, that sounds pretty good. But you know what else I'm noticing now is I'm not really talking about the story anymore, and I'm more so connecting it to real life. So why don't we make that its own section? Connecting to real life. Which is also very important because that's what you want your reader to take away from this is you want them to understand like why does this story matter on a grand scale, not just why does it matter to other fish because this movie's about fish. Well, we are not fish. We need to find a way to connect to this movie in a way that allows us to empathize with the characters and understand them better and also understand ourselves better. That's the reason why we like stories and why we read and listen to and watch stories. Okay, so I've got that down. And you know what the last thing I need is I actually need a closing statement or a conclusion. Now, conclusions are probably also one of the hardest things to write. They need to connect everything that you just wrote about into a nice bow or a nice big statement or sentence, or maybe a sentence or two. Doesn't have to be just one sentence, but something that allows the reader to understand what the final message of your paragraph is about. So if I could do that, what would it be? You know, I think my conclusion, I want that to be kind of like a message to the reader, like a direct message to the reader. So I might say something along the lines of, and you know, I'm going to make this orange again because again, it's beyond the lines. I'm not just talking about the story. I'm talking about like a greater message. So no matter what your abilities are, you have the potential to excel in whatever you want in life as long as you're willing to put the work in. Okay, so I'm reading this now and I don't know if this is actually like the theme that I wanted to get across. Let's look back at what my original theme was. So no matter what your abilities are in life, you can always show courage, strength, and help the people you care about. You know, I don't like the sound of that. I'm actually going to erase that part. You have the potential to excel. Let's say you have the potential to excel as long as you work hard and get help. when needed, because Nemo does need help from time to time, and I think that's an important thing. At the same time, you should be mindful of others and help them shine as well. All right, how does this read? So no matter what your abilities are, you have the potential to excel as long as you work hard and get help when needed. At the same time, you should be mindful of others and help them shine as well. All right, you know what? It's not perfect. It's not perfect by any means, but I'm gonna take it for now. And you know, I have all of my ideas down on the page, and that's really what matters here, is that I'm just getting my ideas down on the page. This is my first draft, and I have a lot more drafting to do before it is, you know, closer to perfect. It's never going to be like perfect. That doesn't exist. But it can be better. Trust me, it can be better. And you know what? That will be the next step in the process, is figuring out how do I take all my ideas that I've got here and now take them and make them better. So that's going to be probably what the next video is. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next editing video.